Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well. I hope that you're having a good day so far. I'm here today to talk to you all about cravings. Cravings is an interesting topic, and I think a lot of people struggle with cravings, and often I think they blame themselves, blame their willpower, and think that they're really weak. And that it's just that they just really like that food, that they just can't resist it. But there can be a little bit more going on here. There's lots of reasons why we can get cravings, and especially if you're experiencing your cravings to be very strong and you're really struggling to resist the cravings, then that's a sign that there might be something that's internally driving a need for that food. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, let me know in the comments, what cravings do you struggle with? I know that a lot of people crave chocolate. That's me. I crave chocolate. A lot of people will crave salty things. Sometimes it's spicy things. Let me know in the comments, what things do you crave? So there's a few underlying imbalances that can result in cravings. And I think the really important thing to understand is that if you have an imbalance that causes cravings, it's very difficult to ignore that. It's very difficult to overcome those cravings with willpower alone. So just to explain that to you, why it's so difficult to ignore the cravings, one of the main drivers of cravings can be from imbalanced blood sugars. So what happens is we have fluctuations in our blood sugars, and our body tries really hard to keep them within a normal range, because that's where we've got enough blood sugars to make energy, but the blood sugars aren't so high that it's actually causing damage in our bodies. So your body tries really hard to keep blood sugars in a certain range, and there's lots of things that can disrupt that and can cause them to become high or too low. Food is obviously a big cause of it, because we get sugars from sugar and also from carbohydrates and from fruits and vegetables and all plant-based foods. So we have sugars coming into the diet constantly, coming into the body constantly when we eat, and that in itself causes fluctuations in your blood sugars. So that is something that it's caused by things in your diet, but it's also caused by things like stress and hormone fluctuations, the amount of exercise that you do, the amount of sleep that you've had, the medications that you take, where you're at in your cycle. Loads of things impact your blood sugar balance. So there are various reasons why this can happen, but ultimately what can happen is your blood sugars can dip down a little bit too low, and that's not good. Our bodies are not happy when our blood sugars are too low, and some people will experience this as feeling tired, feeling weak, feeling shaky when it gets particularly low. And you don't have to be diabetic to experience that, by the way. But also some people don't experience that. And their blood sugars might still be low, and instead what they experience, or as well as, might be cravings. So when your blood sugars are low, your body needs sugar. It needs sugar to bring those blood sugars back up into that safe range for your body. So because your body's really clever, it's so smart and adaptive, what it does is it gives you cravings for sugars, sometimes for carbs. So it could be for savory things as well, because we get sugars from the carbohydrates that we eat. So it might be that you crave sweet things. It might be that you crave bread or pasta or something like that. We're much more likely to have cravings when the blood sugars are dipping down low. And the reason why they're so irresistible, why it's so difficult to ignore them, is because when your blood sugars are low, your body can't let that lie. You can't let it stay low. They've got to bring the blood sugars up. So your body gives you cravings to make you eat these things to bring those blood sugars back up. And that's really important that that happens. So to address the cravings, what we need to do in that instance is we need to prevent that blood sugar crash happening in the first place. There's no point trying to fix the blood sugar crash with anything other than sugars. There's better ways and worse ways to bring yourself out of a blood sugar dip when you've got lots of cravings. But ultimately, in the long term, what we want to do is prevent those blood sugar dips in the first place so that you don't get the cravings. And, you know, we've had long conversations about blood sugar balance in the past. There's videos about it in the guide section of this Facebook group, Hormone Havoc Weight Loss Support. So, you know, in those sections, we go into details about balancing blood sugars, and it's well worth checking them out because we go through why you get blood sugar dips and also what you can do about it and some of the signs and symptoms of blood sugar dips. So cravings is just one of those symptoms. And, you know, a lot of people might experience feeling fatigued. They might feel like, excuse me, like they can't concentrate. They might feel like they need caffeine. Some people really crave caffeine when their blood sugar dips down low. So there's lots of things that you can experience, and cravings are a particularly difficult one if you're trying to eat well. So we want to prevent those cravings in the first place. And you know, one of the best ways that you can set yourself up for a nice day of steady blood sugars rather than these highs and lows is starting your day with protein. And this is probably my most common recommendation. You know, in many of my videos, I tell you to eat more protein, start your day with protein. And the reason for that is because we digest it so slowly. It actually slows down the release of sugars from the carbohydrates that we eat. It slows down the absorption of those. So it means we get a more steady increase in blood sugars rather than this high, which always results in a crash. So that is the most important thing that you could do, is make sure that you get protein in your breakfast or your first meal of the day. It doesn't have to be breakfast if you choose to fast, if you choose not to have breakfast, but the first thing you eat, you want it to be rich in protein, and that is going to really help to limit those cravings later on in the day, and also just help you feel more full up and sustained as well. Now, I've no doubt that making that type of change will help, but sometimes it doesn't resolve the full issue because there can be other reasons why you might have cravings. And another big cause of cravings is imbalances in the gut bacteria. So your gut bacteria or your microbiome, your gut microbiome is made up of lots of beneficial bacteria, some yeasts, some less beneficial bacteria that are fine if they stay in low numbers and are totally normal to have. And often what can happen is this balance can be disrupted where we end up with not enough good bacteria, sometimes an overgrowth of the less beneficial bacteria, and often an overgrowth of yeasts. And particularly the yeasts can be quite troublesome for your cravings because yeasts like sugar. Yeasts really like sugar. And so what the yeasts and some bacteria can do is they can actually create hormone-like substances that allow your gut to communicate with your brain. They can also end up stimulating the nerves in your gut, which can help to communicate with your brain. And essentially, by doing that, what these yeasts can do is place orders with your brain for the food that they want. So often it's sugar, but there can be other things that you crave. So your imbalances in your gut bacteria can result in very strong cravings for sweet things. So if you're finding that, you know, you're doing a good job of getting protein into your breakfast and you're eating well generally, but you just have got these persistent cravings that won't shift, then it could be to do with imbalances in your gut bacteria. And this is something that we do with our clients in the Nourish method, is we actually look at their gut bacteria and yeasts to make sure that they're balanced. And if they're not, then we start to address that, because we're never going to shift the cravings and address the hormone imbalances and blood sugar imbalances and inflammation and toxic load and all of those things that impact your metabolism. We're never going to correct those things properly unless we address the imbalances in the gut. So your gut can be a real driver of cravings. And then there are other things that can cause cravings. Deficiencies are some very common, can cause some very common cravings. And a very well-known one is magnesium. If you are deficient in magnesium, which many, many people are, because it's such a common deficiency, it's very depleted from the soil and therefore the food that we eat, that can cause chocolate cravings. So often people find that if they've got uncontrollable chocolate cravings, then having a little bit more magnesium can be really helpful. And then if you're craving salt, there's a very good chance that you need a little bit more salt, particularly if you are eating low carb or keto. When we reduce down the amount of carbohydrates and sugars that we eat, your body at first gets a little bit more efficient at getting rid of salt. And it's partly because we release a lot of water that is stored along with those sugars and carbohydrates, and with that goes the salt. So sometimes you can need a little bit more salt. And low salt can cause fatigue, it can cause sugar cravings, it can cause muscle cramps. So those are some signs that maybe you might need a little bit more salt. So we do need salt, and a little pinch of it in your diet is important. You probably don't need salt if you're already eating lots of salty things, or if you are eating lots of processed foods. And another thing that can increase your demand for salt is high stress and lots of exercise. So, you know, particularly if you are stressed, you're exercising lots, maybe you're eating low carb, you're probably going to need a little bit more salt in your diet. So those are some things that can help you to start addressing some of these cravings. As I say, there are other things that can cause cravings, other deficiencies and imbalances. And that's what we do with our clients, is try to get to the bottom of that so that you don't have to rely on willpower to avoid the foods that you're craving, and so that you can, you know, you can still enjoy these foods, but you have them when you choose to, rather than feeling a compulsion to eat them every day or every week or whatever. So hopefully this has been helpful. Let me know if it has. Make sure you give this video a like if you've learned something today, and I will be back again soon with another topic. So have a good day, everyone, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.